Hey guys, JM Ryerson. I am a mindset coach, and catch me on this week on the Jesse T Show.
JM Ryerson, welcome to the Jesse T Show, brother.
Man, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And like I said, I love the poster behind you. I think it's so applicable to what I love talking about. So it's awesome.
Let's dive into it, man. Talk about it. What do you love talking about?
You know, mindset, just in general, it's something that so often people know to take care of their body. They know to, be good in family and be a good husband and all that. But it does come down to your mindset, literally. And so your poster, as I said earlier, with the goldfish wearing a shark fin, it's like, look, your mind, you get to choose every single day who you get to be. Every moment you get that choice. And it's on you 100%. Like, you can be the victim, or you could choose to be, as you said, the hero, or choose to be present in the moment. But I guess that's the biggest thing with mindset is your choice. No one gets to make that decision for you but you. So that's why I love it so much. I totally agree with your poster. Mindset is everything.
Well, listen, with serendipity, when people connect and kind of have some of the same ideas, but can talk about them from different experiences. So in your experience with mindset, where did this start playing into your mind? Was it, in your youth? Was it through your, college years, or even business? And what are some of the key lessons that you learned that really made it part of your ethos?
That's a great question, brother. I mean, if my mom was on the show, she would probably tell you I was always willing to put myself out there. But I think really the idea of a growth mindset really became where I could put my finger on what it was when Carol Dweck put out the book Mindset. Like, when I read that, and I read it every year just because I think it's that important to remind myself, like, look, even if you're not great at something, that's okay. In fact, who is that? It would get boring. If you were great at everything, you wouldn't actually choose to do it. So to answer your question, I think as a kid, I was always willing to put myself out there, whether, in sports were kind of how I had labeled and defined myself early. And then once I had 3 knee surgeries, it was like, okay, I guess I'm not going to be an athlete anymore. So now I'm going to be a normal dude. And then I studied abroad, and then I kind of found, reading became such a big part of me. So it's just something that's ever evolving. And I think that's the biggest thing. The whole idea with neuroplasticity and the fact that our brains can change, that whole science is going to continue to show us all that you don't stop growing until you, again, choose to, or you die. So yep. If you didn't choose to die, get it, but you can choose to grow your mind every single day, just like you can choose to grow your body. So anytime we fix our mind on something, we're going to be wrong. And so just that whole idea has just changed the way I look at the world. It's certainly how I try and raise my 2 boys with my wife. It's like, I want them to know that you get the choice every single moment to show up how you want to in this world.
I think a lot of it too, what you're saying, it's bleeding out into never stop evolving, never stop learning, never stop growing, never stop being uncomfortable. There's a lot of times people get uncomfortable, and a lot of times they'll shy away, and then they won't experience that growth. And, for me, mindset is sometimes all I had growing up. I was a poor kid from Boston, and then I lived a crazy life, and thankfully I'm still alive. I've held death in my hands a couple of times. I've served in the military, and there's times where, you're not really sure about the future. You're not sure about the next moment. And so you have to have a powerful mindset, because if you give up and if you decide to retreat, that could cost you your life in dire situations. And if not, it does still cost you a quality of life if you do give up on yourself and if you don't have a strong mindset. So what are some of the tools that you found along the way that helped kind of grow that mindset shift in your mind, but like actually emboldened it and made it strong? It's like a muscle. You got to keep working on it. So what are those tools and those implements that you use?
Yeah. Brother, it's a great question. And one of the things, as you were talking, the word perspective kept coming to mind, because I have 7 daily reminders on my bathroom mirror along with my goals. I believe in putting it up. I believe in seeing them every single day, at least twice a day, because I'm brushing my teeth at least twice a day. But one of them is it says keep perspective. And in the inset, it says Dick Fong. Well, Dick Fong is my brother-in-law that passed away in his mid-40s, had 3 girls. Look, whatever thing I'm going through, I promise you, Dick wishes he could be going through it right now.
Yep.
So this little thing that is bothering me, this first world problem that seems like such a big deal at the time, the perspective I need to have is I'm on this earth, allowing myself, I have the choice to deal with this thing. And it's funny, this again, I have a 14-year-old boy, and I remember being 14 and something would happen and the girl broke up with you and that was your everything in life. I can't even remember her name now. But at the time it was everything. And I guess that's the whole point is I love the fact that I was that present as a 14-year-old thinking this is everything. But the truth is there's moments, and every moment, if you really look at it, being present in this moment is the most important thing you can do. So to answer your question, what are the tools? Having those daily reminders up tell me and remind me, as much as I want to have a growth mindset, I remind myself every single day, have a growth mindset always. Be a leader every day. Set your intention. And so I remind myself these because just like anyone, brother, I get knocked down, stuff happens, and it's like, I want to play the victim too, but I remind myself, don't, because when you're uncomfortable, when you're growing, isn't that what we all want, is to feel alive, have those butterflies going and just be like, that's fun. It sucks if you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs and bored. To me, it's like, I don't want that. I want to challenge myself. And that's what's interesting is most people do enjoy a challenge, whether they realize it or not. And we grow far more when we fail than when we win. So that's the whole idea, brother, and some of the tools I use.
There's so much amazing insight, part of your life story and being vulnerable, sharing through that. And you kept on talking about remind, which also is remember what's important. And remember, I'll get into it in a second, but how you do remember is sometimes with the hardships in life, and specifically with Dick Fong was his name.
Yes, correct.
And unfortunately, the passing of people that are special to you, usually for most people, gives them that perspective, which is how you started the whole conversation. And for me, I wear this chain that I just recently got. It says Memento Mori on it. And are you familiar with that term at all?
I'm not. I have a guess of what it means, but I'd love to hear it, brother.
Yeah, it's something that was given to me through hardship. And so Memento Mori is a Stoic philosophy that says, know that you're mortal, know that you must die. Let that be all the inspiration you need to live a life well lived. And back in Roman antiquity and Greek antiquity, the generals would come back from the spoils of war, and people would be cheering for them in the streets and, trying to kind of make their heads all big. And there was someone who's dedicated, it was a slave, a dedicated job to stand behind the general and say, Memento Mori, remember you're mortal, remember you must die. And how that came to fruition in my life, and I talked about this a little bit off air, was I've physically held death in my hands twice. So my daughter, when she was 7 days old, she passed away, and I held her in my arms till she died. My mom had cancer for 8 years, and I was with her when she died. And then my dad, he passed away, and he was by himself, a bachelor in Boston. I went up there and actually cleaned his blood up off the floor after he passed away. And so I've really experienced the darker side, the death of life, but it's given me perspective, and it's given me so much love and intention with my time. And listen, I'm a human. I'm not perfect. It's not like every second I'm crushing it or every second I'm doing something. But through the day, I have a constant reminder, a constant remembrance of Memento Mori, that if I'm not feeling it, if I don't want to walk in and go do the training and work out, if I don't want to, show up in this relationship, if I don't want to do this business thing, it really lights a fire under your ass. And it goes back to Dick Fong. His one wish is if he could be here, most likely, because we don't know what the other side looks like. But it's like, and I'll leave you this part here. We connected through Todd, who's plugged into Dave Meltzer. And Dave Meltzer was on my podcast a little while ago, and he was like, healthy people get 1,000 wishes a day. Sick people have 1 wish a day. And if you have that perspective of, you're alive, you may not have everything you want. You may not have all the money, the relationship, but you woke up today. Dick Fong wishes he could have woke up today. You know what I mean? Most likely. So all that to say, brother, I think that's so powerful for people to understand, and having the visual cues of the writings on the mirror, and then the constant repetitive implementation. Those things are huge. Are there other implements that you use that maybe they're passe to you? You kind of overlook them. Are you doing things like training your body? Are you doing things like, you said neuroplasticity, NLP work, or any kind of like subconscious training? Are you into any of that stuff at all?
Well, every morning I do the same routine pretty much. Now it varies on the day, what time I do them, but there's 3 things I think everybody needs to do. And that's take care of your mind, your body, and your soul. If you take care of these 3 things and take care of yourself first, so often I will have people think, oh, that's selfish. And I'm like, you're looking at it actually the wrong way. And I'm talking to all you, I'm going to generalize here, but those moms that take care of their kids first. And I'm like, stop being selfish, because you think you're doing a great thing by taking care of your kids before yourself. Well, how can you take care of them if you're not taking care of your mind, taking care of your body, and taking care of your soul? You can't show up as the best version of yourself. So to answer your question, yes, man, I meditate every single day. I do breath work every single day. I journal every single day, all so I can show up as the best version of myself in my professional life, as a husband, as a father, as, a son to my parents. If I don't do those things, I'm not giving them 100%. And that's the biggest misnomer. I think people, if they can just realize, take care of you first, so then you can take care of. And your story talking about your mom and your dad, like, look, that is something that shaped your life clearly. And I hope that they did take care of themselves so that they did such a great job with you, right? And now you in turn got to be there to take care of your folks. So it's just, yeah, man, it's having those reminders. And it's funny, you talk about the necklace as having that so often, and you're into development and making sure that you know this stuff. We all still need it. I wear this bracelet every single day, and it tells me to be courageous, have fun, and transcend, the three values of my company. Because there's sometimes I don't want to be transcendent. I don't want to overcome self-limiting beliefs. So often I'm in serious work mode instead of having a good time. And the true perspective is, brother, I'm going to be on this earth, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 years, maybe 120. I don't know, but it's not that long in the grand scheme of things. Why not have a good time while I'm here?
Yep.
Spending any amount of energy towards being bored or not giving it your all, I'm not interested. But I do need to remind myself, because there's days I just want to be pissed off. Remind yourself, it's not that big a deal. So I love the reminders, brother. And those are some of the things I do every single day that I'm sure your audience has heard. People meditate every single day. There's a reason for that. There's, these tools that we use so that we can unlock the greatest sense of who we are. It's in there, but we have to be very diligent about it and very, intentional about bringing it out of ourselves.
100%. And I kept on hammering down on your specific tools that you use, because you do them every day. They don't even seem probably like a big deal anymore. But as someone who may be looking for a tool, that journaling, that breath work, whatever it is that you're using that's kind of normal and routine for you, can be so powerful for people. And I can tell you, there's a couple things that came up when you were talking. And so it's like Jesse Itzler, if you're familiar with him, he talks about remember tomorrow. And what you do today bleeds into tomorrow. And so how well you show up for yourself, number one, I think that was huge. It's like when you're on the airplane, they used to talk about, I don't know if they do, I haven't heard in a while, but if the oxygen mask comes down, put it on yourself first before you can take care of anyone else. That's not being selfish. That's being of service. And being of service is something that's been a calling on my heart. So that means being fit and in shape so that I could chase my kids around. And I want to be able to do that until I'm 70, 80 years old with their kids and their kids, if I'm lucky enough to be here, versus being tired and laying on the couch and not hanging out with them. And they look at their dad like, my dad doesn't really love me, or my dad doesn't want to play with me. And like, all these things are important, and those tools are important. And so I've found a guy named David Goggins. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, very. In fact, his book's right behind me.
Yeah. So that book changed my life. Can't Hurt Me. And part of sharing some of that story with you that I did before, but there's other things, like when I share that story, it's liberated, it's freed me, and it's helped me to connect with people on such a deep level. But I've taken some other practical tools from David Goggins, because he talks about callousing your mind and doing things that are difficult and uncomfortable. And a guy that went from, basically he calls himself a loser to this pinnacle of what a human mind can achieve based on these habits. And I think the habits are so important. And so some of the habits I deploy that help with my health and wellness or business are cold showers, intermittent fasting. I track my sleep and how I recover with this Whoop strap. And, hey, yeah, Whoop brothers, baby. And I think that these little tools that we take for granted in our daily life, other people look at them and say, wow, like that would really help. And so that's why I really wanted to dig deep on that. But
I might real quick, because one of the things, if you were to be in my daily life, my wife, I drive her crazy because I'm always searching to be better, right? So intermittent fasting, I do bulletproof coffee. Why? Because it helps feed my brain every single morning. Breath work, and you're talking about David Goggins. I use one of the things he talked about because I do a breath work where I hold my breath for at least a minute to a minute and a half to 2 minutes, depending on which session I'm in. And I'll go into that cookie jar he talks about because I'm like, look, I don't need the breath. My mind says I need the breath, and my body's like, oh man, I could really use it. But the truth is, if I can overcome it in my mind, so I use literally this morning, I was reaching into the cookie jar because about a minute and 35 seconds trying to hold my breath for 2 minutes, I was dying. The truth was, I wasn't. I was fully alive, and my mind was telling me I needed that breath. So anyway, to Goggins, that I use him as well, and he has a lot of really good stuff in that book.
It's incredible. And his book, I've listened to it twice. It's a beautiful listen because it's like a podcast. It's a narration. It's a conversation. It's beautiful. It's one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. And I actually was at a mastermind last week with the guy that wrote the book, Tucker Max, who's this amazing human being. And we have some synergy there. But going back to the cookie jar, man, and being able to pull from those things that inspire you in those tough times, you talked about specifically with your breath work. It sounds like a little bit to me. Are you using Wim Hof breath work?
You know, it's funny. Parts of what he does, Tumo breathing, I do use. Wim is hard for me, and here's why. He's done some incredible things, and I love what he's brought to the world because he has shifted. But I have a hard time taking him seriously. And I studied in the Netherlands for a year, so I know where he's coming from, and he's just kind of a goofy dude to me. But what he's doing is remarkable. So to answer your question, no, I don't follow him, but the Tumo breathing. Actually, I found through Breath talked about it. It was a book that you guys can check out. But Wim Hof is, I use parts of what he does. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the protocol is, as long as you're doing it. I guess, and this is something I've talked about before is, the tool that works for you is the right tool, right? Oh. And if you're not using it, it doesn't matter. And so, one of my clients, and really she's a soul sister, and we're on this life journey together. One part of her business is a breathing system that she delivers. So she came to my office about a month ago, maybe a little bit more, and we were doing some wealth planning stuff. And then we pivoted to, hey, let's do a breathwork session. And she gets into it, and she's we're kind of a little bit woo-woo and spiritual. She's like lighting the incense, clearing the energy in the room. She's getting into it. And then all of a sudden, like I drop into the breathing, and, she's like, just breathe this way. It was, I want to say it's, in all the way with the mouth, out all the way with the mouth, as far as you can go, for as long as you can go. And what I felt like was 5 minutes. When I came to and kind of got back into total consciousness, she said it was 25 minutes of me breathing like that. So immediately I lost concept of space and time. But the most important thing I think about it is the experience that I had. And so I'm laying on the floor in my office where I'm at now, and I was there for about an hour, and I couldn't get off the ground, JM. Like I literally, I'm about a 215-pound guy. I felt like I was 1,000 pounds. And I tried to muster myself off the ground. I could not get, and what happened was I do a lot of spiritual work and plant medicines, and I know how to surrender, and I surrendered completely, and I surrendered to the emotions. And what happens is when you do the breathing, it's meditative. You bypass that frontal cortex and you stop thinking so much, and you start getting into this feeling zone. And I felt things about my wife and my kids and my business. And it was one of the most impactful things I've done in my life. And it just took the breath. So I really love that you're using breathing. How often are you doing your breathing technique?
I do it at least every morning. It takes me anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes. And it really just depends on, and not to tangent, but one of the things about meditation that I'll hear people say is I don't have time. And I used to do the same thing on my bathroom goals. I would always say 10 minutes a day. And so look, one day I don't have 10 minutes to do it because I'm choosing not to, right? But it's like, all right, I don't have 10 minutes, so I'm just not going to do it at all. That's insane. So literally my goal now is just to meditate daily. And that could mean 10 minutes. That could mean 2 hours. It really depends on what it looks like. So anyway, to answer your question specific to breath work, 5 to 30 minutes is what I usually spend. That's kind of the time I've allotted to do it. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. And I'm like, dude, I got to go work out right now. I just feel like I got to do it. Or maybe I start writing because that's some of my creative juices is allowing, and that breath work brings it out of me. It's like, I'm not thinking about anything, but I'll wake up or I'll come back to, as you talked about. And it's like, wow, I have all these answers. And that surrender, that word is so powerful, brother. I love that you said that, because when you surrender and you stop trying so darn hard, it's like you find things that you were looking for. If you surrender to the fact that, look, even the word you said, which I eliminated off my show, is woo-hoo. I will not say woo-woo or woo-hoo or any of that, because the truth is, brother, I grew up in Montana. I grew up as a kid that we didn't do these things. And you know what? That was why. Because my grandparents didn't do it. My dad didn't do it. This shit works. So I don't really care what it is, woo-woo or whatever. It works. So I don't allow people to say it on my show anymore. So anyway, this is your show. We can say it, but I love that you're doing that stuff. And I think people can get so much if they just open themselves up to some of these ideas.
It's like being Italian and calling yourself a guinea, right? Like, it's not going to offend me by saying woo woo, because I am so spiritual. I will be mindful of if it bothers you, but here's the deal.
Doesn't bother me, brother.
I'm going to be in Peru in a month doing ayahuasca with a bunch of veterans and high level business people. So it's about as woo woo as you can get.
Have you done ayahuasca before?
First time doing ayahuasca, but I have sat with San Pedro, and I've sat with psilocybin mushrooms in ceremony prior. So I haven't done ayahuasca yet.
Cool. Brother, I've never done it either, but some of my best friends, they've done it upwards 2 and 3 times, in Costa Rica is where they always go back to. But
Soltara, I believe it is down there.
I think so. Yeah. I can't wait to hear how it goes for you, man, because that would be one I would really have to surrender to, right? Because not having control of my body is the fear. But the truth is, I've heard so many amazing things. So that would be a surrender moment for me. So that's amazing.
You can't, if you try to white knuckle it through that ride, it'll literally kick your ass. And it's a very taxing situation. Even with the psilocybin mushroom ceremonies I've done, I do one a quarter on average, like once every 3 months. And it's becoming part of this work that I do with men and now women. But you have to surrender. And the things that it teaches you, I'll just tell you this, it has connected me closer with my relationship with God. It has taught me how to be a better human, worked on my ego, worked on some trauma that I had. It's shown me how to show up better for myself and for people that I love, for my business. And I mean, like you said, it doesn't matter what other people think about the tools. If it's making you a better person and you're showing up better for other people, it doesn't matter what it is. So,
well, I think of it real quick as like, I was taught, bad stuff. You bury that stuff, put it way down there. It's the worst thought ever is to, hey, let's put that stuff way deep down. Let's bury all those emotions so that it comes out like a volcano. That's an awful idea. So I love what you're doing, man. And I'm excited to hear how it goes for you.
Yeah, brother. I led a group of guys back in January in North Georgia. We had a lake house that we just had all to ourselves for the weekend. And we did a lot of work, breath work, cold plunge, meditation, introspection, did a couple different exercises. And then we did like some Qigong that I brought into the fold. And then we did the plant medicines, and everyone came out from that experience a changed man. And it's so powerful. And they're being used in therapeutic sessions. They're being decriminalized. There's this resurgence because there's a consciousness awakening happening right now in the world. People are getting wise to the system. They see what's going on with politics. They see what's going on with big corporations, and people want to be able to think for themselves and be free thinkers. And these are some of the tools that get us there, whether it's breath work or you're going to Peru. Meet in the middle, whatever you got to do, but just keep showing up for yourself. So let's talk a little bit about your trajectory into what you're doing today. So it looks like you get a lot going on with the business, and what are you providing to who's your market? What do you do for them, and how are you showing up for your clients?
It's interesting. I get this question at least 2 to 5 times a week from marketing companies. Who's your niche audience? And I know they want me to give them an answer that I refuse to. Look, I work primarily with athletes and executives. However, I'm helping a kid that he wants to lose 50 pounds. Am I a dietitian? No. But has he almost hit that 50 pounds? We're at like 46. And I say we because it's a journey we're doing together. He's doing the work, so we're clear. But I'm just allowing some tools that he has at his disposal he's not aware of. So, specific to my audience and what I offer, it's really showing them that there's some basic so much of the habits that we're talking about this morning, that is available to all of us if you're aware of the knowledge. And so with the business, we have a journal that's coming out. It's called Champions Daily Playbook. It's simple because everything I do has to be simple. Otherwise, it's too much. So you'll hear me talk in threes a lot. because I can remember 3. You ask me to remember the top 10 things, I might get 6 or 7, but 10, no way. 3 things, absolutely. So what's coming out recently and what I've been working on is the Champions Daily Playbook. And that's really just doing the habits that I'm teaching. Instead of telling people over and over, I'm just like, well, here's the tool, just put it into play. I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out, but it did, whatever. And then I do a blog every week, and that's as much for me as it is for the audience. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed writing. And yes, I wrote a book, but I didn't realize how therapeutic it was. And so that's what I'm trying to offer the world is these are thoughts going through my head. Hopefully they help you as well. And when they do, what a beautiful thing to share with another human being. Like, hey man, I found this in a book. I think you'd really get a lot out of it. Let me share it with you. And that's the majority. It's not like original stuff I've come up with. It's the fact that I'm reading so darn much or listening to podcasts. And then I want to put it in a small, digestible format so other people can say, oh yeah, I could totally do that. The cold showers like you do, or the cold plunge. It's a phenomenal idea. And most people aren't going to spend them many hours to understand why it's such a good idea. But look, it's really good for you. Point blank. That's it. Like, yes, it's good for your mitochondria and all the sciences behind it.
Right.
But most people aren't going to dive into that. So just, hey man, at the end of your shower, turn it down for a minute on cold. Good things will happen. So that's a lot of what I offer to my clients is doing the work, for them and hopefully making it really digestible so that they can apply it and show up as the best version of themselves every single day.
I love all of that. And then we're going to talk about the book and talk about a little bit more about the business, but, really specifically the softer sciences where I think, life is done well and where people really make a mark in the world is the relationships within their businesses. And you're talking about not necessarily having a niche. You do have a focus, but you will help who needs to be helped, or I should say work with who needs to be worked with. And I thought it was really beautiful when you said we're doing the work together, even though that he's doing the work, you're there with him. And that's how I treat my business. My client family is what I call them. And I intentionally bring people into my business that I want to do life with. And as a financial planner and a fiduciary by trade, it's not a one-time event. You don't just give somebody one idea. Like, it's a lifelong relationship. And so bringing these people in life to walk through life with, walk through business with, I think that's the best way to do it. It creates this lifestyle business where you're happy to show up for yourself every day. And it sounds like you've had that same experience. Is that fair to say?
100%, brother. Like, I love the fact that you said family, because that is a powerful word. And if that scares them, guess what? They're probably not the right client for you. And you know that. And when you're teaching somebody, you're teaching them so much more than just some financial product. You're saying, look, man, I want you here with me for a long time. Let's make sure your health is in good order.
Yes.
You hear people talk about the circle of life or the wheel of life. Zig Ziglar, I think, called it the wheel of life. Look, there's a reason that there's 7 areas that we should be focusing on, because if you don't show up if your health is out of order, how can you be great as a husband? If your financial life is in disarray, how can you be the best version as a father? And all these things, here's a good example. If you as a parent or a husband or a wife, if you don't go feed your adventure side, your hobby side, if you don't take those girls or guys nights, you can't show up and be the best version of you. So it's actually really selfish when you choose not to. And I know, man, I've heard guys forever, oh, I can't tell my wife I'm going to go golfing. Why?
Yeah.
Go golf, not for you, for them. And I know people will kind of look at that and go, really? 100%. Look at how much happier you are after you feed yourself whatever hobby that is. So when you come back from Peru, you will show up as an even better version. I just know it. That's just the way it works. And good for you for taking the time. You're going away from your family so you can show up better as the best version of yourself when you come back. So anyway, that's some of the stuff that I talk about. And I love that you do that with your clients as well.
Yeah, brother. I think the setting time, one of my mentors told me at least once a month, try to take a couple of days away from work. Whether it's, if it's a weekend or if it's a couple of days throughout the week, just block off some time for yourself. If it's to catch up on reading, if it's to go do something self-care wise, you want to go get a massage, go get a chiropractic adjustment, whatever you're into. But I can tell you without a doubt, since I've been doing this for the last couple of years, it's completely changed me as a human being, and it helps me to show up better in every area of life. And when you have those guys' nights or girls' nights, a couple things happens. Number one, you're showing up for yourself and you're having fun. Number two, you're getting ideas from most likely good people that you're surrounding yourself with to take back to that relationship. I mean, I've had conversations where like I'm experiencing different things in the bedroom because of this. You know what I mean? So go hang out with those people as much as you want. And then also a little bit of absence makes the heart grow fonder. Like if you're always in each other's face, especially during COVID and especially during like the pandemic where people are just forced to be in front of each other, you see these divorce rates go up and all these issues. But at the end of the day, if you really are intentional about each other, creating space is what I'm really big about talking about. Create space for each other, hold space for each other. Like someone shows up and they're having a tough day, just sit there. As men, we try to fix things. And if we could get into a space where it's not time, we know when it's not time to fix something, and we just sit there and we just take it in and we listen. And if our cup is full, this has been the kind of the narrative of the conversation. If you're take care of yourself first and your cup is full, well, then you can have space for yourself to digest somebody else's emotions and show up well for them. And so budding it all together, I think it just goes back to really self-love, self-care, so that you can really pour it out in the world, brother. So I think we're in alignment there, and I love that. Talk a little bit about your authorship, if that's even a word, journey, about the idea of the book, how long it took you to get to fruition, how the sale of it's going, like the whole journey. How did it go?
Yeah, it's a great question, brother. And it's a fun story for me. So it would be 5 years ago, I put it on my goals, bathroom goals. It's in my mirror. And about 3 years go by, and my 8-year-old at the time, he's 11 now, he walks by the mirror and he goes, "Hey, Dad, how's the book coming?" And brother, I was shattered. I mean, he crushed me, and I was inspired all in the same moment, because I had to look my son in the eyes and say, I've literally done the first chapter. Mm. And by the way, this book is for my 2 boys. The reason I'm writing the book was originally the intent was for my 2 boys. So I had to look at this little man at 8 years old, and I had to look at him and know I failed him. No parent wants to let their child down, period. Now, did it matter to my 8-year-old? No. But I was showing him that all of this bathroom mirror stuff, all these goals, and I'm not coming through. So it was a bumpy start, I guess. But the moment he asked that question, the book was done within a year. What came out of it, I could not have predicted. And we talk about journaling. It was 6 months of the hardest core journaling possible, because I'm pouring everything into it. And look, I start the book with vulnerability. And people are like, why did you start with that subject? Because it's the most profound lesson I have learned in my professional life, certainly, but I think in life in general. Because I wanted, again, go back to the intention of the book was for my boys. I don't want them to wear masks. I think my boys are beautiful human beings that are going to bring so much love to this world. I don't want them to put a mask on any of that. And so that's why I started with that chapter. So it's been an amazing journey. The book sales, I mean, of course, I think any author, you want more. I want more people to know about it, but it's not an ego thing. I want it to be, if it brings value to them, that's awesome. And again, it's a shorter read. My hope was if you hopped on a flight in New York, you could land in LA and have the book finished and not feel overwhelmed. And there's takeaways in it that you can hopefully apply in your life. And it enhances your life, right? It's not going to change your life, but it enhances it and hopefully gives you some ideas and thoughts that you can apply. So it's been an amazing. Anybody sitting there right now that's like, gosh, I want to write a book. Don't wait, just go. And by the way, I hated what I looked at on paper. And so I found a solution. I found somebody to tweak it. And so then I met another amazing human being, Jen Lil Brown. I'll give her props real quick. That shaped the way the writing, so it was more digestible and it sounded more like me. And so that was the hope, because I don't want it to be preachy. I literally want it to be, hey, here's some things I found. And if no one, if my boys get some value out of it, that was the original intent. And the last part I'll say to it, there was another gal, Danelle Delgado, who said, look, if you only share that with 2 human beings, you're selfish. And I said, you're right. Let's get it out to the world. Let's go ahead. And so it's not about book sales for me. I want people to read it because they get something from it, but it has been an incredible journey, brother.
I know it has been. And I'm thinking the whole time you want to put it out to the world to share and add value, but it's changed you, and it's given you some beautiful life lessons and experience. What are some of those things that you've seen change in your life or connections you've made because of the book?
Yeah, great question. Again, you're full of good questions, man. One of the things you said earlier is you didn't say courage, but you said something along those lines, which is courage is like a muscle. It gets stronger the more you use it. And so that is one lesson that I hope everybody put yourself out there. And the quote that always comes to mind is everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Yes.
Right. And so that always, when I think of, that's chapter 11 is courage, right? Or chapter 10 is one of those. I should know this, but, but it really is. If you just put yourself out there, you get better every time. And then the whole word transcend. People always ask me, why transcend? I can't spell it. I don't even know what the heck it means. And the whole meaning for me is to rise above self-limiting beliefs.
Love it.
I want people to think, why do I think this way? Maybe it was some really crappy hardwiring I got from my parents. Look, I think my parents are the most incredible human beings in the world. They taught me so many things. Guess what? They also gave me some negative stuff. That's the way it goes. So my relationship with money, I've talked about this in the journal, Champions Daily Playbook. My relationship with money was not great because my dad always said the pretty people, if you were at a country club, he didn't mean it necessarily derogatory. That was just what he had learned from his dad. And so when I started making a lot of money, I felt bad about it. Yep. And so I had to overcome that and realize money is not bad. Money can be incredible. You can do so many great things with it. But that was my process that I had to overcome. So when it comes to transcending those self-limiting beliefs, it's like, look, just because I was taught these things, and they say like 80% of our hardwires come in before the age of 5, before we have a long-term memory.
Yep.
So we have some of that nasty stuff when our parents were just trying to figure it out. So let's think about, why do I think this way? Is that real? How is that showing up in my life? So those are some of the lessons that come from the book that I think people can really apply.
Sprinkle in the fact that we have 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are negative because of negative self-talk and because our self-conscious a lot of times sabotages us, and we have to be mindful of that. And I think what you said is super important about your relationship with money, and it's crazy. And I've been asking this kind of greedily about the book writing process because I'm about halfway through with my first book called Happy Wealth. And it's 10 ways to become wealthy happily. And it's super important for people to understand the distinction between having money and having time and having happiness. A lot of people that have money, you'll find that they're not that happy. And a lot of people that have money don't have time. Wealthy people have both. They have health, they have happiness, and they have time. So how do we accomplish that? And one of the biggest narratives, it's crazy, and I'm sure we're connected for this reason, but synergy-wise, the first chapter is mindset. It's all it talks about. And it talks about emotional and behavioral finance, things that we weren't taught as kids. I didn't grow up with money. And I, it's shaped me to who I was. It taught me how to go seek and learn and grow. And then once I learned how to create wealth for myself, I could deploy that and teach other people. And so the lessons, the learning ideas, the breaking of that genetic, downflow of information that may not have been great. Like they talk about breaking your ancestral trauma kind of thing. If you have certain things in your house, if it's alcoholism, if it's abuse, if it's whatever it is, if it's indifference, whatever it is, we all have those things and we have the tools. It's just the discipline and the execution to actually deploy them. And so whether it's mentors, whether it's your circle of friends or the 5 people that are around you, how do you stay, I guess, accountable? Because we're people. And a lot of times people don't want to just get up and do these things. Sometimes people don't want to get up and work out or take a cold shower or go to the office. And sometimes they have to, but sometimes maybe they'll find a way to skirt around it and they just maybe won't live their fullest life. How are you making sure you personally are diving into those things? And when the times you don't want to, you're still doing them?
Yeah. Well, congrats on the book. I can't wait to read it. It's amazing, brother. I love that you're doing that. How I stay accountable is I give permission. My family members are my accountability buddies. So my wife, my 2 boys, they have full permission. The other thing is I share it with my business partner. I share it with everyone that is willing to listen. I share it with the big, scary dreams that I'm like, I'm going to start the podcast Well, you don't know anything about podcasting. Yeah, I know. I got it. But I'm going to tell you, I'm starting this podcast. You can hold me accountable to it. It's been one of the best decisions I've made. So the whole idea of giving somebody permission, because it sucks. Trust me, guys, I'm giving you advice that you're going to be like, thanks, bro. My wife is totally beating me up because I gave her permission about that. And by the way, me too. So much of what I learn, look, we all are human beings. We make mistakes. I make mistakes every single day, but I allow her to call me on it so that I do show up as the best version of myself. So quite literally for me, staying accountable is sharing it with people, having it up there, and then reflecting on it. One of the things you said earlier in the podcast was taking that time for yourself to be introspective, to really look at, okay, I put this goal up there. Was it a good idea? Okay, yes, no, whatever the answer is. Am I doing anything about it? Yes, no. If I don't do something about it, how is that going to affect my life? And so when it comes to working out, like you talked about wanting to be there for your kids, I want to live to see my kids grow up to be parents and hopefully their kids. And I want to live that long. So that means I have to work out every single day. That means I do the intermittent fasting diet. That means a kid from Montana is gluten-free. He's dairy-free. He doesn't eat red meat. It's blasphemy. They're like, dude, who are you? What did California do to you? Because I lived there prior to Florida. But the truth is, it was inflaming my body. I felt like absolute shit. So I took it out of my diet. And so that is what I'm constantly trying to find is what are the things that trigger me good and bad? And the things that trigger me bad, remove them or put in a positive trigger. And that's what journaling has done for me, is allowing me to find that pattern to say, gosh, I ate red meat. I was really, let's say, gassy all night. I couldn't sleep. So now I only slept 3 or 4 hours. Now I'm not showing up the next day with the energy I want, but it all started with eating red meat.
Yep.
And so it's just when you can find those things. So I'm holding myself accountable, and I'm also giving permission to my family members to say, call me out. This is what I want to show up as, but I know my reflection in the mirror is not always great. You see it the way you see it. Tell me what it is so I can get better.
It's the whole narrative or the idea of you can go fast alone, but you go further together, right? And I learned this, punched in the face with this a couple of years ago. I got into running probably because of David Goggins. And then when my dad passed, he was a big athlete and he was really, fast. And just every time I would start running, I felt like my dad was with me. And I got really good at running. And I'm still, I'm like 6'1", 215. So I'm not a small guy, but I am usually placing or winning in these races. And it's because I like to go fast. And so I was like, man, I love to run. I want to invite friends that come out to these races. And I started inviting people to races. The first time I did it, I never did it again because I don't wait when I run. Like I just go. And I realized if I invite 10, 15, 20 people out to this obstacle course run and it's going to be this fun thing for them, they're not going to even see me. Like, I'm going to be gone. And the whole idea there is just no, stay in your lane. If you got a couple things you got to do by yourself, but when it comes to goals and it comes to staying accountable, there's nothing better than what's called like an accountability buddy. Your wife, your spouse, your kids, people that matter to you, because it's so easy for us a lot of times for us to quit on ourselves. But if you're responsible for other people, almost 10 times out of 10, you're going to show up for them. And that's something I had to deploy in my business a couple of years ago was, now I hold anywhere from 5 to 8 appointments a day on purpose. And it's podcasting, it's business, it's follow-up, it's different things. And, it's different times for different things. But at the end of the day, I do that because I know I'm going to show up and show up well. Those days that I've had in the past over the years where like I had a blank day because I just didn't book appointments or because it was an admin day or some BS, I'd be willing to screw off because it was my time versus your time. Come hell or high water, I'm going to be there. So I think that accountability is so huge. And people, that's why they hire coaches. That's why they hire consultants. Yes, you have the information. You can get them there better, faster, stronger, but really they just want to walk with someone through the process, right?
Well, yeah, the whole idea of a coach is they see what you're capable of. Your point is so valid, brother. It's like, I will quit on myself 1,000 times before I'll ever quit on my kids. That's the universal truth for most parents. Like, I will never let my kids down, or I will come hell or high water. I will do it, but I'll let myself down. Oh yeah, no problem. I'm tired. I'll give myself any excuse, but letting down my son or either of my boys, absolutely not. That is not even in the equation. So if that means doing extra reps, if that means, again, doing whatever it takes. That's what they're providing. So without them even realizing, they're giving me that motivation. So if I'm not intrinsically motivated that day, they are right there and I can see them and I can bring a visual and go, I'm letting them down. Not today.
Yep. Not today, man. Come hell or high water. So you touched on it. Before we jump off, I'll be remiss not to bring it up, but talk about the podcast. And again, same kind of question with the book. What kind of color has that added to your life and your journey with it?
Tell you what, man, I didn't expect doing Transcend in Life is the big one that I really get a lot of value out of. I didn't expect to meet as many incredible people. That is probably the biggest thing. And what's amazing is I'll bring on, it doesn't matter. I'm not looking for the most, Instagram followers. I want interesting people that are going to provide value to the audience. And that could come in the form of an attorney. I had a guy on that he was a runner. You were talking about running, and he oversees the Sacramento Marathon Institution. I totally jacked that up. That's not his official title. But what he brought to me was so much that I don't understand. I'm not a runner. I'm not, but I got so much from him. So when I did the podcast, I didn't expect to get so much from it and to meet so many. I'm meeting you today because of podcasting. Yep. And I know that you and I will do future business of some sort, whether that means me letting you handle money or doing a mastermind group or going and doing ayahuasca. I'm probably down for all three, but that wouldn't have happened if I didn't have this amazing platform, or we didn't have this amazing platform of podcasting. And so Transcend in Life is the name of it. And it's fun, man. It's just like this, very similar, 45 minutes. I always tell my guests, we're going to have a bottle of wine and talk for 45 minutes.
Yep.
Maybe it's coffee today. Maybe it's water. But you know what? The idea is it's two human beings connecting. Sometimes it's four human beings connecting and bringing more love to the world and hopefully bringing more value. So it was a surprise, brother. There's never been one podcast where I was like, man, that was a lot of work. And they are a lot of work. Like what you do, kudos to you, brother, because I know there's a lot of work that goes into it, prep time, the editing time afterwards. But you are bringing so much value to yourself, to your audience. I think it's amazing. And if you're ever hoping to do a podcast, guys, just jump in all the way in, face in. Don't go feet in. Just go for it.
You'll never be, you'll never be ready. And that's what I learned. And it was put on my heart to do something, to share a message, to share my voice and to share my story, but also share that of others and really shine a light on other people. And through conversations, leave impacts where we could. And for my personal journey, it started a couple of years ago, about 2.5 years ago. And what it's done for my life, brother, I couldn't even imagine in terms of the relationships, like you said, the business that's come from it. The interesting, fun things. Like a lot of times when I have people on the show, I want to learn so that I can learn, right? And it's been a masterclass for me on life and business. And like you said, we're meeting for the first time today, but we found out there's a ton of things that we align on, a ton of things we can learn from each other. And the future is endless. And I'm just excited about the journey moving forward with you, with the podcast, with life. Man, you've been amazing. He's the great, the powerful J.M. Ryerson. I'm Jesse T. Be sure to catch us on next week's episode of The Jesse T Show.